my name is Aquilina Mendez-Faulkner, and this is my week 4 presentation for Dr. Sundstrom for MPA 594. So an overview this week, I'm going to compare a public and private agency, share with you guys the thesis statement that I wrote, and talk about 3 themes that defend my view and some theories to support. So I chose to look at how public and private schools are similar or different. And the thesis that I wrote is important factors such as funding, bureaucratic regulations, and organizational goals reveal how public and private schools are only similar in unimportant respects. Looking first at funding, most private schools receive their funding through student tuition or private donations. And I have heard of private schools applying for grants, maybe to, buy a bus or something like that. But overall, government funds are not their main source of revenue. On the other hand, public schools' main source of revenue is government funding. And this comes from the local, state, and federal level. So Grodson and Wright both write about this overlapping of government activities in their articles and what we've learned to be cooperative federalism or marble cake federalism. So that then brings us to bureaucratic regulations. Even though the federal government doesn't have any say in education, per the Constitution, that is supposed to be something that was left to the state, via Article 10. Through cooperative federalism, the federal government provides funding to the state education department, giving them the power to set rules and requirements that must be followed. So federal bureaucracies involved include like the ones that I listed here, the Department of Education, the Department of Agricultural. This is in regards to, school lunch programs, something that public schools do not have to abide by. The Department of Labor. And then, of course, at the state level, you have very similar departments. So again, like the Arizona Department of Education, the Arizona Department of Agriculture, the Arizona Education Employment Board. And then at the local level, you have, the Florence Unified School District is the example I put here, but it's just local rules and regulations that they have to abide by that are set by the board members of the school district. So public schools, yes, they do have boards and they have to abide by certain rules and regulations, and also certain governmental agencies. So for example, the Department of Labor, they do have to abide by their rules and regulations. Public schools compliance with these rules do lead to more funding by way of grants. And while not an Arizona factor, I imagine private schools in union states have to follow, don't have to follow the union rules the same way that public schools would. I'm not 100% positive on that, so I'm going to look more into that when I write my paper. But I'm thinking that is also going to be a kind of something that's not so similar. Okay, and then for my third point I picked was organizational goals. While on the surface, both public and private schools seem to have the same goal. They both want to educate the youth. But who can receive the education looks much different, in both settings. So public schools must educate all youth, regardless of race, religion, financial status, limitations such as disabilities. They have to, provide education to all youth. Because of this, certain acts authorize grants to be issued, which I can actually talk about in the other section. But the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that actually authorizes for formula grants and discretionary grants to be issued to states for the purpose of special education services. Private schools don't get that. And because of that, they have the ability to turn students away who they feel may not excel in their particular institution. And so this ends up, even though, like I said, the goal is the same or it looks the same on the surface, when you start really digging deep into it, the goal itself is not necessarily the same. Private schools' goal might be to educate students to pump out a certain type of student, where the public side, their goal is to educate everybody and ensure that everybody, regardless of any type of factors, do receive that education. And that is my board for this week. There's a lot more, obviously, that I'm going to add to the paper, but for this week, this is the three things that I chose to share. So thank you for your time.